The research ship floated quietly in space. Far beyond Mars, Dr. David Rodriguez had been studying alien life for 15 years. But he never expected to actually meet one. He was in the lab, looking at samples from Jupiter's moons, when the alarm started ringing. "Sir, you need to see this." His assistant called from the main deck. David rushed over and saw something that made his heart stop. A massive ship, bigger than anything humans had ever built, was slowly appearing right in front of them. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. With smooth silver surfaces that seemed to glow from within, the communication system crackled. To life, a voice spoke in perfect English, though it sounded strange, like music mixed with words. "Human vessel, we are the Zephyrian Empire. We come in peace. We request permission to meet your representative for scientific purposes." David's hands were shaking as he responded. "This is Dr. David Rodriguez of the research vessel Hope. We accept your request for peaceful contact." He couldn't believe he was actually talking to aliens. Within an hour, a smaller ship detached from the massive vessel and docked with their station. David watched through the airlock window as 3 figures approached. They were tall, much taller than humans, with skin that changed colors like an oil spill in sunlight. They wore flowing robes that seemed to move on their own. The leader stepped forward. She was clearly important, her robes were more elaborate, and she carried herself like royalty. "I am Queen Liana of the Zephyrian Empire," she said, her voice echoing strangely in the docking bay. "We've traveled far to meet with your species." David tried to stay calm, but his mind was racing. Real aliens, a real alien queen. This was the moment that would change human history forever. "Welcome, Your Majesty," he said, hoping he sounded more confident than he felt. "I'm Dr. David Rodriguez. What brings you to our solar system?" The Queen's large, dark eyes studied him. "Carefully, Doctor. My people face a crisis. Our species is dying out. For thousands of years, we have searched the galaxy for other intelligent life forms who might help us solve this problem." She gestured for her companions to step forward. One carried a strange device that looked like a crystal mixed with metal. "We study the biology of other species to understand if our genetics can work together. It is the only way our civilization can survive." David felt curious and nervous at the same time. "What kind of studies are you talking about?" "Simple compatibility testing," the Queen explained. "We examine genetic structures, run harmless tests, study how different life forms might complement each other. We have done this with 47 other species across the galaxy." The Queen's expression became more serious. "However, I must be honest with you, Doctor. None of those species were truly compatible with ours. The testing process usually takes many months, sometimes years, before we can determine if there is any possibility of genetic cooperation." David nodded, trying to process everything. "Now you want to test human genetics?" "Yes. But only with full consent and cooperation. We are scientists like you. We believe in ethical research." The Queen paused. "We have observed your species. From a distance, humans show remarkable adaptability and genetic diversity. This gives us hope." One of the Queen's advisors whispered something in her ear. She nodded and turned back to David. "We would like to invite you aboard our vessel for the initial testing. You would be the first human to see our technology, our culture, our home away from home." David felt his heart pounding. This was the chance of a lifetime, not just for him, but for all of humanity. "What exactly would the testing involve?" "Nothing harmful," the Queen assured him. "Genetic sampling, compatibility analysis, biological surveys. Think of it as a very advanced medical checkup. Our physicians are skilled beyond anything your species has yet developed." The Queen's skin shifted to a warmer, more golden color. David was beginning to understand that this was how her people showed emotions. "Doctor, I will not lie to you. This process has never succeeded with other species. But something about your human genetics intrigues our scientists. You might be our last hope." David looked back toward the bridge of his ship, where his team was waiting. They had discussed this possibility in theory, but now it was real. First contact protocols said he should report back to Earth and wait for instructions. But that could take weeks, and who knew if the aliens would still be here? "I need to discuss this with my team," David said. The Queen nodded respectfully. Of course. But please understand, we cannot remain in your solar system for long. Our presence here might be detected by other civilizations who would not approve of our research. David spent 2 hours talking with his crew. Everyone agreed this was too important an opportunity to miss. If these aliens could help advance human knowledge of genetics and space travel, it could benefit everyone on Earth. When he returned to the docking bay, the Queen was waiting patiently. Her skin had shifted to a deep blue color, which David was. Starting to think meant she was anxious. Your Majesty, I volunteer for the compatibility testing, he said. The Queen's skin brightened to almost pure gold. Excellent, Doctor. You'll be treated with the highest respect and care. This could be the beginning of a friendship between our species. As David prepared to board the alien vessel, he had no idea that he was about to become part of something that would change both their civilizations forever. The Queen believed this would be just another failed experiment, like all the others. Neither of them could have imagined what was about to happen next. David woke up in what looked like a medical room, but unlike anything he had ever seen on Earth, the walls seemed alive, pulsing gently with soft blue light. Strange instruments floated in the air around his bed, scanning him with beams of colored light. How do you feel, Doctor? Asked a voice. David turned to see one of the Queen's medical advisors, a tall alien with silver skin and 4 arms. The compatibility testing is complete. David sat up slowly. He felt different somehow, stronger and more alert than usual. What exactly did you do to me? Standard genetic analysis and biological integration testing, the medical advisor explained. We introduced small samples of Zephyrian genetic material to see how your human cells would respond. This process usually takes months to show any results. David nodded, remembering the Queen's explanation about how long these tests normally took. So what happens now? Do I wait here for months while you study the results? Medical advisors. Skin suddenly turned a deep purple color. David was learning that this meant confusion or concern. Doctor, there has been an unusual development.
Oh.
Please remain calm. Before David could ask what was happening, the door to the medical bay opened with a soft whoosh. Queen Liana entered, but she looked completely different from when David had first met her. Her skin was shifting rapidly between colors: gold, silver, red, then back to gold. Her movement seemed agitated, and her large eyes were wider than before. Your Majesty, David said, standing up. Is everything all right? The Queen stopped pacing and stared at him. For a moment, her skin settled into a deep crimson that David hadn't seen before. Dr. Rodriguez, something unprecedented has occurred. In all our centuries of genetic research across 47 different species, nothing like this has ever happened. David felt his stomach tighten with worry. What's wrong? Did something go bad with the testing? Not bad, the Queen said. Her voice trembling slightly. Impossible. Genetic integration was successful immediately. Your human cells and our Zephyrian genetic material have combined perfectly on the first attempt. David didn't understand why she seemed so upset about this. Isn't that good news? Doesn't this mean our species are compatible? The Queen's skin flashed bright red again. Doctor, you don't understand. I am the Queen. The genetic material we used for testing came directly from me. This means, she paused, as if the words were difficult to say. I am carrying a hybrid offspring. David felt like the room was spinning. You mean you're pregnant with my child? This should be impossible, the Queen said, beginning to pace. Again, Zephyrian reproduction requires careful preparation, specific conditions, months of gradual genetic adjustment. We have never achieved successful integration with any other species, let alone on the first attempt. The medical advisor approached them both. Your Majesty, the development is progressing at an extraordinary rate. What would normally take our species 2 years is happening in a matter of days. Queen Liana's skin turned almost black with what David was beginning to recognize as anger. This violates everything we know about our biology. How can human genetics be so perfectly compatible with ours when no other species in the galaxy has achieved even basic integration? David tried to process what he was hearing. Queen Liana? I had no idea this could happen. He said it was just compatibility testing. It was supposed to be. The queen snapped, her skin flashing between red and gold. For every other species, we can safely test genetic compatibility without any risk of actual reproduction. Your human biology is unlike anything we have encountered. The room suddenly filled with a low, humming sound, and the walls began pulsing faster. David noticed that other aliens were rushing past the medical bay windows, all looking alarmed. "What's happening?" David asked. The medical advisor looked worried. "Your Majesty's emotional state is affecting the ship's biosystems. Our vessels are partially living organisms that respond to the Queen's mental and physical condition." "Queen." Liana closed her eyes and took several deep breaths. The humming sound gradually quieted, and the wall pulsing slowed down. "Dr. Rodriguez, you must understand the situation this puts us in. I am the ruler of an empire. I cannot simply carry the offspring of an unknown species." David felt a mix of fear and responsibility. What does this mean for me? For the baby? "Don't know," the Queen admitted, her skin shifting to a worried blue. "Our laws are very strict about genetic purity. Some of my advisors will see this as contamination. Others might view it as the answer to our survival crisis." She walked to a window that showed the vast expanse of space beyond the ship. "I do know is that this changes everything, not just for you and me, but for both our species." David joined her at the window. "Is there any way to reverse what happened?" Queen turned to look at him, her skin now a soft gold color. "The integration is to complete. The offspring is developing with characteristics from both our species. Even if we wanted to reverse it, our medical technology cannot undo what has been done." "Then what happens now?" David asked. "Now we face the consequences," the Queen said. "I must inform my council about this situation. Some will demand that you be eliminated to prevent any further complications. Others will want to study you extensively to understand how this was possible." David felt his heart racing. "Damn, what do you want?" Queen Liana was quiet for a long moment. "I want to understand why the universe has brought us together in this way, and I want to protect what we have created, even though it terrifies me." The medical advisor approached them again. "Your Majesty, we're receiving urgent communications from the homeworld. News of your condition is beginning to spread throughout the Empire." The Queen's skin flashed red with anger again. How could they know so quickly? The ship's biosystems had been transmitting data automatically. "Your unusual readings were flagged by our monitoring stations." Queen Liana turned to David, her expression more serious than ever. "Dr. Rodriguez, your life has just become very complicated, and so has mine." As alarms began sounding throughout the ship, David realized that what had started as a simple scientific exchange was about to become something much bigger and more dangerous than either of them had ever imagined. David was sitting in what the aliens called a holding chamber when the shouting started. Through the translucent walls, he could see Queen Liana arguing with a group of her advisors. Their skin colors were flashing rapidly between different shades, and even though he couldn't understand their language, could tell they were very angry. 2 days had passed since the shocking discovery. David had been moved to a comfortable room, but he knew he was essentially a prisoner. The Queen had explained that for his own safety, he needed to stay hidden while she dealt with the political crisis his presence had created. A young alien guard approached his door. Unlike the others, this one had been kind to David, even bringing him food that was safe for humans to eat. "Dr. Rodriguez," the guard said quietly, "the Queen requests your presence in the council chamber." David followed the guard through corridors that seemed to pulse with nervous energy. The ship itself felt different now, as if it was worried about something. They passed windows showing other Zephyrian vessels that had arrived during the night. Some were sleek and beautiful like the Queen's ship, but others looked more military in design. The council chamber was enormous, with a ceiling that showed what looked like real stars. Queen Liana sat on a throne-like chair in the center, surrounded by at least 20 other aliens. David noticed that her skin had a slightly different glow than before, and he realized this must be because of the pregnancy. "Council members," the Queen announced as David entered, "this is Dr. David Rodriguez, the human involved in our current situation." An older alien with darker skin and more elaborate robes stood up. His voice was harsh and unfriendly. "Your Majesty, This creature represents a threat to everything our civilization stands for. The genetic purity laws exist for good reasons. David felt uncomfortable being called a creature, but he tried to stay calm. Queen Liana's skin flashed with anger. Counselor Varen, Dr. Rodriguez is our guest and will be treated with respect. Another counselor, this one with silver skin and a gentler voice, stepped forward. My queen, perhaps we should consider what this development might mean for our survival. Our species has been declining for centuries. If human genetics are truly compatible with ours, this could be the answer we've been searching for. Counselor. Zara speaks wisely, said a third alien. We have tried to find genetic compatibility with 47 species and failed every time. The probability of this happening by chance is essentially zero. Perhaps this was meant to be. Counselor Varen's skin turned a deep, angry red. Meant to be? This is contamination of the highest order. The Queen carries the offspring of an alien species. If this news spreads to our colonies, it could cause civil war. David finally found his voice. Don't excuse me, but may I say something? The room fell silent. All eyes turned to him, and David felt very small and very human among these tall, powerful beings. I never intended for any of this to happen, David said. I volunteered for what I thought were simple medical tests. I had no idea that human and Zephyrian genetics could combine this way. But now that it has happened, maybe we should focus on what it means for both our species. Queen Liana nodded encouragingly, her skin shifting to a warmer gold color. Continue. Doctor, your people are facing extinction, David said, looking around the room. My people are just beginning to explore space and could benefit from your advanced knowledge. Maybe this isn't a disaster. Maybe it's an opportunity, Counselor. Varen made a dismissive gesture. The naive optimism of a primitive species. You don't understand the complexity of our society, our laws, our traditions. Maybe I don't, David admitted. But I understand biology. I understand that sometimes evolution takes unexpected turns. Maybe this is one of those moments. New voice spoke from the back of the chamber. The human speaks more sense than some on this council. David turned to see a younger alien approaching. I am Dr. Keel, head of our genetic research division. I have been studying the data from your compatibility testing. Dr. Keel moved to the center of the room, carrying a device that projected holographic images in the air. What we are seeing is not just compatibility, it's perfect genetic harmony. The human DNA and our DNA are combining in ways that enhance both sets of characteristics. The hologram showed complex structures that looked like twisted ribbons of light. David couldn't understand the science, but he could see that something extraordinary was happening. The offspring will likely possess human intuition and adaptability combined with our advanced mental capabilities and longevity. Dr. Keel continued, This could represent the next step in evolution for both species. Counselor Varen stood up angrily. This is exactly what I feared. You're all being seduced by the possibility of power. But what about our culture, our traditions, our identity as Zephyrians? What good are traditions if we're all dead? Counselor Zara replied. Our birth rates have been declining for 200 years. This might be our only chance to survive. Queen! Liana stood up, and the room immediately became quiet. Her skin was now a steady, royal purple color that David had learned meant she was making an important decision. I have received communications from our homeworld, she announced. News of my condition has reached the outer colonies. Some planetary governors are declaring their support for this new direction. Others are calling it an abomination and demanding my removal from the throne. David felt his heart sink. I'm sorry, Your Majesty. I never wanted to cause problems. For you, the Queen looked at him with an expression that seemed almost gentle. Dr. Rodriguez, the problems already existed. Our species was dying slowly. You may have simply forced us to face the truth more quickly. Suddenly, alarms began. Ringing throughout the ship, young officer rushed into the chamber. Your Majesty, we're receiving multiple incoming signals. 3 different Zephyrian fleets are approaching our position. Whose fleets? The Queen asked. One from the home world, one from the outer colonies, and one from the military command. They all claim to be coming to protect you, but their intentions are unclear. Counselor Varen's skin turned pale with fear. This is it. The Empire is about to tear itself apart because of this human. Queen Liana's skin flashed with determination. No, the Empire is about to choose its future. She turned to David. Doctor, whether we like it or not, you and I are now at the center of a revolution. The question is whether it will destroy us or save us. As the ship shuddered from the approach of the incoming fleets, David realized that his simple scientific mission had somehow become the catalyst for events that would determine the fate of two entire civilizations. And somewhere in the middle of it all, a hybrid child was growing, representing either hope or catastrophe for everyone involved. David was in the medical bay when everything changed. Queen Liana had been experiencing rapid changes in her condition, and Dr. Keel insisted on constant monitoring. The pregnancy that should have taken years was progressing in just days, and nobody knew what to expect. Dr. Rodriguez, Dr. Keel called urgently. You need to be here. The birth is beginning. David rushed to the Queen's side. She was lying on a biobed that seemed to glow with healing energy, but her skin was shifting through colors he had never seen before. Her breathing was labored, but her eyes were alert and focused. David, she said, reaching for his hand, can feel something extraordinary happening. This child is unlike anything in our records. The birth process was nothing like what David had expected. Instead of the painful struggle he knew from human births, this seemed more like a transformation. Light began emanating from Queen Liana, and the air in the room felt charged with energy. When the light faded, David found himself looking at the most remarkable being he had ever seen. The child appeared to be a perfect blend of human and Zephyrian features. It had the Queen's luminescent skin that shifted colors, but the facial structure was more human-like. Most amazingly, its eyes seemed to hold an intelligence that was far beyond what any newborn should possess. Incredible, Dr. Keel whispered, running scans with his floating instruments. The genetic integration is perfect. The child has inherited enhanced capabilities from both species. As if responding to the conversation, the baby turned its head toward David and made a soft sound that somehow felt like communication. David felt a strange tingling in his mind, as if someone was gently touching his thoughts. Did you feel that? Queen Liana asked, her voice filled with wonder. Her skin had settled into a beautiful golden color, and she looked more peaceful than David had seen her since this all began. Feel what? David asked, though he suspected he knew the answer. The mental connection. This child can communicate telepathically. The Queen sat up carefully, cradling the baby. In Zephyrian culture, such abilities don't develop until adulthood, if at all. But this little one is already reaching out to both of us. Double quotes, Dr. Keel's instruments were beeping frantically. Your Majesty, the readings are extraordinary. The child's brain activity is off any scale we have. There's something else. The child seems to be interfacing with the ship's biosystems. As if to prove his point, the lights in the medical bay began pulsing in rhythm with the baby's breathing. The walls, which normally showed a steady blue glow, started displaying patterns that looked almost like a language made of light. Happening? David asked. I think the child is trying to communicate with our technology, Queen Liana said in amazement. Our ships are partially living organisms with their own primitive intelligence. This little one seems to understand them instinctively. Suddenly, alarms started ringing throughout the ship. David's heart sank, thinking the approaching fleets had arrived. But Dr. Keel was studying his readings with excitement instead of fear. Your Majesty, the child's presence is upgrading our ship's systems. The bioneural networks are evolving in real time. Our technology is becoming more advanced just from being near the baby. Before anyone could respond, the chamber doors burst open. Counselor Varen entered with several armed guards, his skin dark with anger and determination. This has gone far enough, Varen declared. That creature is an abomination that threatens our entire species. It must be destroyed before it corrupts everything we are. Queen Liana's skin flashed bright red with fury. You will not touch my child, Varen guards. Arrest this traitor. But Varen's soldiers raised their weapons. I'm sorry, Your Majesty, but we serve the greater good of the Zephyrian people. Step away from the hybrid. David moved protectively closer to the queen and baby. You can't do this. This child could be the answer to your species' survival, or the end of our purity. Varen replied coldly. We have survived for millennia by maintaining our genetic integrity. We will not be contaminated by alien DNA. At that moment, something extraordinary happened. The baby, still cradled in Queen Liana's arms, looked directly at Varen's soldiers. The lights throughout the ship began flashing, and David felt that strange mental tingling again, but much stronger. The soldiers suddenly lowered their weapons, their expressions confused. I can't do this, one of them said. This child, it's not evil, it's beautiful. What's happening? Varen demanded. But even his own skin was beginning to shift toward the golden color that indicated wonder and acceptance. Dr. Keel was frantically checking his instruments. The child is projecting empathic energy. It's helping everyone understand its true nature telepathically. The soldiers can feel that it means no harm. Queen Liana smiled, her skin glowing with maternal pride. My child is showing them the truth. It carries the best of both our species, human compassion and Zephyrian wisdom. More people began entering the medical bay. Word had spread throughout the ship about what was happening. Aliens who had been arguing just hours before were now standing together, all looking at the baby with expressions of awe. This changes everything, Counselor Zara said as she arrived. I can feel it too. This child doesn't represent contamination. It represents evolution. Varen backed toward the door, his skin still shifting between anger and confusion. This is some kind of trick, alien mind control. No, Queen Liana said gently. This is what our species could become, enhanced but still ourselves, stronger, together than we ever were apart. The baby made another soft sound, and suddenly the ship's communication system activated on its own. Images began appearing on the screens throughout the vessel, not just their ship, but Earth itself, showing human cities, human families, human children playing under blue skies. It's showing us David's home, the Queen realized. To understand where it comes from, what it represents, David felt tears in his eyes as he watched his home planet displayed on alien screens. It's showing you that humans aren't a threat. Dr. Keel approached the baby carefully, his instruments detecting new energy patterns. Your Majesty, I believe this child may have abilities beyond what either of our species has ever possessed. It could bridge the gap between human intuition and our advanced technology. And what would that mean? What would that mean? It could mean a future where both species not only survive, but thrive together in ways we never imagined possible. As if in response to these words, the baby's eyes seemed to sparkle with intelligence and hope. Queen Liana looked at David with an expression that combined wonder, fear, and determination. Whatever happens next, she said, we face it together. For our child and for both our peoples. Outside the ship, the approaching fleets were still coming. David knew that the real test was still ahead. But for the first time since this incredible journey began, he felt genuine hope that everything might work out after all. The 3 fleets arrived just as David was beginning to understand the true extent of his child's abilities. Through the observation deck windows, he could see dozens of massive ships surrounding them. Some had the elegant design of the Queen's vessel, while others looked built for war. They're demanding to speak with me, Queen Liana said, holding their baby close to her chest. The child had grown noticeably in just the few hours since birth, already appearing several months old. Its eyes held an intelligence that seemed ancient and wise. What will you tell them? David asked. The truth, the Queen replied, her skin shifting to a determined silver color. That this child represents hope, not destruction. Admiral Thorne from the military fleet was the first aboard. He was an imposing figure with battle scars across his dark skin, and armor that looked like it had seen many conflicts. Behind him came Chancellor Mira from the homeworld, elegant and diplomatic, and General Kane from the outer colonies, who looked suspicious of everything around him. Your Majesty, Admiral Thorne said formally, we have come to assess this situation and ensure the security of the Empire. Chancellor Mira stepped forward more gently. My Queen, The entire empire is in chaos. Some colonies are celebrating this development as a miracle. Others are calling for revolution. We need to understand what we're dealing with. General Kane remained near the door, his hand resting on his weapon. I've heard reports of mind control. An alien contamination. Show us this hybrid creature so we can determine the threat level. Queen Liana's skin flashed with anger at the word creature, but she remained calm. This is my child. And yes, it has remarkable abilities that could benefit our entire civilization. She lifted the baby so the visitors could see. As soon as their eyes met the child's gaze, David watched their expressions change. The same peaceful understanding he had witnessed with Veron's soldiers began spreading across their faces. Incredible, Chancellor, Mira whispered. I can feel its thoughts. It's not trying to control us. It's trying to understand us. Admiral Thorne's scarred face softened with wonder. This child carries memories. I can sense images of both our species. Working together, building something greater than either could achieve alone. But General Kane stepped back, breaking eye contact. Clever trick, but I won't be fooled by alien manipulation. This thing is dangerous. The baby made a soft cooing sound and reached out toward Kane. Suddenly, the ship's communication systems activated on their own. The screens throughout the room began showing images that made everyone gasp. They saw a planet. It's beautiful and green, with cities that combined human architecture and Zephyrian technology. The images showed children playing together, some fully human, some fully Zephyrian, and others that were clearly hybrids like their baby. The scenes showed a thriving civilization where both species lived in harmony. These aren't memories, Dr. Keel said, studying his instruments in amazement. These are predictions. The child is showing us a possible future. A future where our species don't just survive, but flourish together, Queen Liana added, her voice filled with hope. General Kane shook his head stubbornly. Propaganda and illusion. How do we know this isn't all a lie, designed to make us weak? David finally spoke up, because it's already happening. Your ship's technology has been upgrading itself since my child was born. The biosystems are becoming more efficient, more intelligent. That's not an illusion you can fake. Admiral Thorne nodded slowly. The reports are true. Our fleet sensors detected unusual energy signatures from this vessel. Our own ships have been experiencing system improvements just from being near you. The baby gurgled happily, and the images on the screen changed. Now they showed Earth and the Zephyrian homeworld, connected by streams of light that represented trade, knowledge, and friendship. The vision expanded to show other planets, other species, all connected in a vast network of cooperation. It's showing us a galactic community, Chancellor Myra breathed. Not conquest or domination, but partnership. Queen Liana looked around. The room at the assembled leaders. This is our choice. We can fear change and cling to old ways until we die out completely. Or we can embrace evolution and become something greater. General Kane was still resistant. And what about our traditions, our culture, our identity? The child looked directly at him again, and this time Kane couldn't look away. The screens showed new images, Zephyrian ceremonies, and human celebrations happening side by side. Different, but equally respected. It showed art and music that combined elements from both cultures, creating beauty that neither could achieve alone. Our identity doesn't disappear, the Queen explained gently. It grows stronger by including others. David felt a surge of emotion as he realized what was happening. This isn't about losing who we are. It's about becoming who we could be. Admiral Thorne stepped forward decisively. I pledge my fleet's support to this new direction. If this child represents our future, then we must protect that future. Chancellor Mira nodded in agreement. The homeworld will support whatever path leads. To our species' survival and growth, all eyes turned to General Kane. He looked conflicted, staring at the child who continued to radiate peaceful energy. Finally, his shoulders relaxed, and his expression softened. I've spent my whole life fighting to preserve our way of life, he said quietly. But maybe the best way to preserve it is to let it grow into something new. Over the following days, the three fleets worked together to establish what they called the Integration Protocol. Ships from both Earth and the Zephyrian homeworld would meet at a neutral location to begin careful, voluntary exchanges of knowledge and culture. David found himself appointed as the first human Zephyrian ambassador, a role he never could have imagined when he first volunteered for those simple compatibility tests. Queen Liana established a new council that included representatives from multiple species. With their child serving as a living symbol of what cooperation could achieve, the baby continued to grow at an accelerated rate, displaying new abilities. Almost daily, it could communicate with any technology, understand multiple languages instinctively, and seemed to have an innate knowledge of both human and Zephyrian science. "What do you think our child will accomplish?" David asked Queen Liana, as they watched their remarkable offspring interact with a group of young aliens who had come to play with it. "I think it will accomplish things we can't even imagine yet," the Queen replied, her skin glowing with the warm gold color of contentment. "But more importantly, it will inspire others to accomplish those things too." As David looked out at the fleet of ships surrounding them, some human, some Zephyrian, and some hybrid designs that represented the best of both technologies, he realized that their child had done something extraordinary. It hadn't just saved two species from extinction, it had shown the entire galaxy that different didn't mean dangerous, and that the future belonged to those brave enough to embrace change. The angry queen who had once viewed him as a contamination had become his partner in creating something beautiful, and their child would grow up in a universe where being different was not just accepted, but celebrated as the key to unlimited possibilities.